Coming to you from high atop our studios in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're listening to Tech Move. This is episode 38. In today's show, we continue with our ongoing coverage of NAB 2017 with NAB 2017 Part 2. We have interviews with representatives from DJI, Blackmagic Design, Bright Tangerine, SmallHD, and Hoodman. I'm Rod Louie, and with me is Keith Moreau. Get ready. It's time for another exciting episode of Tech Move. Let's go! Well, hello everyone out there in Tech Move land. It is Rod Louie, along with the great Keith Moreau. Keith, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Rod.
That's fantastic. You know, Keith, this is another special episode because what it is essentially part 2 of our continuing coverage of NAB 2017. Mm-hmm. We had so much material. Keith Moreau was beating down the doors of every manufacturer out there that was on the floor, trying to beg them to give us, like, you know, a couple of minutes of interview time. And, you know, his good looks worked in such a way where we were able to get so many interviews, we have to stretch this out over a couple of episodes. So that's what today is for. We're going to wrap up some of those other interviews that we have, and we're going to make this into an episode. What do you think about that, Keith? I mean,
I think it's amazing, and it's a way to get more episodes out.
Right. Well, no, let's really think about it, because if we were to lump them all together, it'd be like a 6-hour episode, and we don't have that much stamina. So thank you.
And neither do our listeners.
Right.
I mean, they're pretty good, but
it's already bad enough when they're trying to download an episode and it takes them like minutes to be able to download one because they're such long, big files.
Yeah, and it takes down our servers and it takes down the internet. It just causes a disaster.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know, Keith, we've got a lot of great stuff coming up today. We have a lot of different areas that we're going to go with. We're going to talk to people over at Bright Tangerine. We're going to talk to some folks over at Blackmagic. We have some folks at DJI, and we have some folks over at Hoodman. I can't even remember how many other people we've got going on, but that's just to name a few of what we've got going on. This is on top of the stuff we just released a little while ago. So, I mean, for Pete's sake, you know, this is nothing but star-studded type of interviews right here on Tech Move. That's what I'm saying. So, you know, Keith, you must be exhausted from having to do all these interviews and everything like that. But, you know, I greatly appreciate it, and so do the listeners. I know that.
It's not too bad. I'm recovering.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that usually after NAB, we also take our sites over to Cinegear. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
So look for that, where even more interviews are coming up, ladies and gentlemen. And Keith, you're going to Cinegear, is that right?
I'm going to Cinegear. I'm going.
You know what would be terrific? Why don't we interview the same people at NAB and Cinegear and see if anything changes within the weeks that transpire between the two shows?
Sure, why not?
I think that would be fun. So, Jimmy, any new changes? Nope, not since the last time I saw you about an hour and a half ago.
No, I think maybe we'll just do all new people, new products, and new companies. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think that would be spectacular, but Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows who will actually talk to us?
Well, I am bringing your wallet photos, so that always
I
helps.
won't sign them unless, but only for a fee. So, we'll just have to go with that. All right, that's terrific. So, Keith, any first impressions, real quick, to kind of lead us into some of these interviews here? Anything you'd like to mention about NAB as a whole? How is it so far compared to like maybe last year's?
Actually, this one could have been really boring, but it wasn't. And I think it wasn't because the depth of interviews that we kind of got more detail from the people than normally we would get. It wasn't just all about products; it was also about them. You know, some of the people, like Wes Philips talked about his how he started with the Doritos commercials. He actually gave his backstory, and we had a lot of fun with the Hoodman guy, Bob Schmitt. And he's a really funny guy, and so we kind of just went wild with him. Some of the others, there's some of the products maybe weren't all brand new, spanking new and exciting and amazing announcements like some of the years, but we made it fun by just getting more detail and more personal.
I agree with that. I really do enjoy hearing about the background of a lot of these people who we either get to talk to for the first time ever, or we've talked to a couple of times before, and to get a little bit more personal, hear a little bit about their history in the business, which of course we always like to hear about. It's always very interesting. So, okay, hey, let's do this. We are going to get ourselves ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in because we've got a laundry list of interviews to bring to you. And in the meantime, I'm going to scrub up and get ready for our first one. And we will do that. Keith, I want you to get the masks ready.
We're
because
doing some surgery here.
We are going to do some surgery. Here we go. A lot of editing, a lot of punching in, a lot of this stuff, but it's going to be terrific anyway. So this is what we're going to call NAB 2017 Part 2, and we will bring you our first interview after we take this quick break right here on Tech Move. It is Tech Move on our NAB 2017 special. It is Rod, Louie, Keith Moreau, and we have another great interview that Keith has conducted while being on the showroom floor. And you met up with the folks over at DJI, Keith, and to talk about a exciting new product that they have.
Yeah, actually, I went to the DJI booth, and I'm always interested in their new stuff. One of the main new things they had there at the NAB show was the Ronin 2, which is an updated Ronin. So the original Ronin came out like 2 or 3 years ago, so it's not that new. One of the things that's kind of cool about the original Ronin is that it was not that expensive for what you get. At that point, there was just a few other gimbals that were kind of, pretty high-end gimbals and cost $5,000 to $8,000 or more. The Ronin kind of dropped the price of all gimbals, and not just the small ones, but the big ones too, and created a pretty sturdy, stable gimbal for larger cameras. It's not the lightest gimbal out there,
nor the smallest. It looks like a fairly big cage.
Yeah, it's fairly large, and it's meant for larger cameras like cinema cameras.
Right.
Anyway, so the new version, and you'll see it's not any smaller. It's probably a little bit bigger, and it's probably a little bit heavier, but it's a lot more heavy duty. So I think probably Pedro, the person that was working for DJI. Actually, one of the little side note, Pedro is the owner of Cinemilled, He's actually he's a cameraman, and his main forte is a Steadicam operator.
Okay.
So there's people in Hollywood that that's all they do. That's like their profession. And
Right.
he's kind of inventive. He's kind of a DIY guy. So he said, I can actually make these new gimbals work better than they do now. And so I think originally he just put some counterweights on cameras to make them a little bit more back heavy, because one of the things about the gimbals is they have kind of a limit to how far back you can push the camera.
Right.
And when you have a super heavy like lens hanging off the front, it just becomes too front heavy. Even if the gimbal is powerful enough, the motors are powerful enough to support the weight of the camera and lens combined, just the center of gravity is too far forward, and you just can't balance it. So
it just gets thrown off, a little front heavy, back heavy, whatever it is, right?
It gets really front heavy when you put a bigger lens on it.
Yeah.
As it is, it's there's not a whole lot of room in the back anyway.
Yeah.
So one of the solutions was to extend the arms, to make the arms from the back part to the cage longer. But even sometimes then it was still not enough. So I think what Pedro did was he put a special plate on the bottom of the camera, and then put counterweights on the back of that plate to basically make it heavier in the back. And then that would balance it out. And so he created this whole business kind of based on that. And then he also created attachments to allow these gimbals to be mounted onto Steadicam arms as well, since he was a Steadicam operator, and then also mount the whole gimbal onto the actual Steadicam sled too. So anyway, he's kind of got, you'll see he's got this gigantic Iron Man like setup here.
Yeah.
And he's going to show that off as well, and it's pretty darn cool. And the whole thing he was wearing was like 60 pounds or something. So, you got to be kind of beefy, I think, to do this job. But anyway, it was pretty cool, and he's a really nice guy. So I think you'll enjoy the interview.
I think one of the big deals here is not only did you get this interview, but we also encourage all of our listeners who are listening audio only to go on to our website and go check out the YouTube links for some of these videos where you can actually see it in action and see what Keith is doing out there on the NAB floor, right?
Yep.
So we want to make sure we tell the folks that it is available on our website, which is techmovepodcast.com. I think Keith, there's probably going to be a link on our Facebook page and all that good stuff too, right?
Oh yeah. If they want to see the videos, there'll be links all over the place for people to see them on YouTube.
So no shortage of links anywhere to
No.
see us.
Hopefully the links actually work.
Right. Right, exactly. Okay, well let's get to the DJI interview with Pedro Guimaraes. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And our very own Keith Moreau, where we talk about the DJI Ronin 2. And Pedro is also the owner of Cinemilled. And this is Tech Move live on the NAB 2017 floor.
Hi, this is Keith Moreau here for Tech Move. We're here at the DJI booth. We've got Pedro here from DJI, and also he's representing his own company, Cinemilled. He makes a lot of great products that go along with some of the DJI gimbals. How's it going here, Pedro?
Oh, it's going great. We got the brand new DJI Ronin 2, so it's really exciting.
Tell us a little bit about this new product.
Yeah, so there's lots of really great new features with the Ronin 2, the R2 as some people are calling it. It's a pretty big leap from the previous generation. It's been 3 years since the original Ronin came out. It's amazing it's been 3 years, and that's why there's such a big leap in technology. There's so many new features that they built into this Ronin 2 that it's kind of a must-have. I mean, when they finally showed it to me, I was so excited. A lot of it has to do with sort of like what I would deem small details, but it's I'm a stickler for details because they make big differences, on set, when you're actually working. So, yeah, I mean, they got mechanical locks now on all the axes, so it helps. You can lock 2 axes, balance the third, lock that one off, balance the next one. So it's not flopping around as you're trying to fine tune one axis. So that basically lets you balance faster, right? You got a slip ring here, so you got HDSDI and power in and out right on the top on the other side of the motor, so you can spin around and there's no cables to tangle. It's all integrated. The cables inside of it are thicker gauge, so you can power hungry cameras, not unlike the Red, but other ones also, and a lot of accessories without overheating the cables because the cables are thicker. So it's a lot of sort of details like that throughout the design. They're using Limo connectors, and it's just carbon fiber, monocoque carbon fiber build, So it's a lightweight exoskeleton, but they added things like these micro adjusters for each of the axes that really, again, helps you speed up the balancing process. So the weight sort of gets offset. So it's carbon fiber. It is, I think, somewhere around a pound heavier than the first Ronin, which was all aluminum. And fairly, heavy. I think it's like 9 pounds. This one's 9.4. I think the Ronin one was like 8 something. But, as you might see here throughout the booth, it's kind of rare on a gimbal this size that you're going to just hold it. The whole point of, things like it has a telescoping side arm right here, the horizon arm, so you can fit really big cameras. So big master prime lenses, longer, maybe an f55 or something like that. So the whole point of that is that the whole thing is going to end up heavy. So 3 pounds here, 4 pounds there. Of course, it all matters, but what's the trade-off for it is functionality. Things like this, the worm gear drive on the adjustment, for the axis. They did some pretty new, innovative stuff with what I'm showing off here, which is the sort of 360 Steadicam mode that, I put the bug in their ear way back when, if we could only lock out the pan motor but leave the other two active, that would really open up a lot of possibilities, especially on a Steadicam. But even for handheld, the biggest challenge for a gimbal is being able to whip pan. They don't whip pan because they just move too slow. So if you lock out the pan motor, you can whip pan now really fast. So maybe for like a fight scene or something, it's kind of a hybrid between handheld and smooth, so that's a cool option. So the other option is, of course, on the Steadicam. So what they did here is as soon as you lock the pan motor, it goes into like a 2-axis mode. And essentially now on Steadicam, it gives you direct control. So there's no lag because the pan's locked out. So for people that are using the gimbal on the Steadicam, it makes a huge difference. The other thing they did is, I'll just show you, the roll motor now allows you to roll the gimbal about 390 degrees in either direction, which is, more than a novelty. For Steadicam especially, it's really important. As you can see here, you can transition, watch out, from a low to high position. And once again, it's a direct connection. And we made an attachment so that you can attach the new Ronin to. We make a lot of universal mount plates for the Movi, for all the DJI product line, even for the tilted gravity gimbal. And so, of course, we made our universal mount for the R2. So that's what we're showing off here. And then we also made this sort of swiveling monitor mount, which is how the monitor stays level as you rotate the new gimbal. So,
Is this a DJI product?
the monitor mount is something that Cinemilled makes, which is me, basically. And so it provides an inexpensive way for you to use this sort of rotating, mode. And so it rotates on the horizontal axis like I just did. But the other thing it does, much like the Airy Trinity, which some people might be familiar from last year's NAB, it actually goes forward also. So I just have to enable that mode here. Let's see.
It's got a little LCD display in the back.
So it's an LCD. It's actually a touchscreen, although it's not enabled at the moment. And if I turn that off,
So is this like the only Ronin 2 at the show?
the only Ronin 2 at the show? No, they got a bunch here at the booth. You walk around and actually you'll see the Ronin 2 mounted in, okay, that's on.
So we're actually reprogramming this in the field. This is an amazing accomplishment, Pedro.
So, anyways, what you'll see when you walk around is you'll see it mounted to like an RC car. You'll see it mounted to a suspension arm on a vehicle. Because the whole thing is, you can see here the size of this motor. It's really big, and the pan motor has always been the weak point in all the gimbals. It's the motor that's most important. And traditionally, all the gimbals have put the same motor on all 3 axes. And that's really kind of not the right thinking, because the pan motor works more than the other ones do. Especially like if you're in a car, the wind pushes against the side of the camera like a sail. And so it's the pan motor that needs to have the power to resist being pushed back by the wind. So this has an extremely big and extremely powerful motor. I have personally taken this up to 80 miles an hour, and it's held with, a red camera and not with something small. So I'm not usually holding a gimbal, like I said in the beginning. It's usually mounted to something. It's essentially being used as a remote head. And that's really where I live as a gimbal operator and camera operator. So the features that the new, R2 offer, in conjunction with a few little bits and pieces that we're making, really sort of, for me, changed the game. This is a definite step forward, I think. So,
What's the price on this?
well, they haven't released an official price. The sort of rumors that I hear is that it's going to be less than the Movi Pro, and so the Movi Pro is $6,500. So if I had to guess, I don't know, maybe around $5,000. So a little bit more than the first Ronin, which was $3,500. Certainly, but it's much more. There's much more product here. But I don't know. DJI might have a surprise for us. At a NAB 3 years ago, they said it was going to be $5,000, and then 2 months later, they shipped it for $3,500. So who knows what kind of surprises they got? I hope they do that again. I think everybody out there also. And as far as timeline, I think it's probably maybe 2 months away is what I heard. There's a few things that they might change, and they gotta keep tweaking the software like everybody does till the last minute. But it's definitely already working, and we've shot a few projects with it. And if you go on YouTube and search for Legacy, just put DJI Ronin Legacy, and that's a short film that Claudio Miranda was a DP. I operated on it alongside Dave Emmerichs, which is a very well-known camera operator also, and our friend Patrick also was the third camera operator. We did a lot of handoffs in that short film, and there's a great behind the scenes, of course, traditional thing that DJI always does when they release a product. But it's a cool little piece, and shows that you can still pass, as big as this is, you can still pass it through a window. So, which we did.
That's really awesome. The thing that's unique about this one, an improvement, is that 360 rotation, because it used to just rotate the whole camera upside down, right?
Yeah. So essentially, it lets you go from like your shoe and then maybe up to your face in like one smooth move. And maybe if you're walking, especially, because then you have the Steadicam arm, and it allows you to go essentially from the floor, which is where we are right there, all the way up, because it's mounted at the end of a Steadicam post, really high, I don't know, about 10 feet. So you can do jib moves, for example, and by exploring some of the weird camera positions you can get this in, I think you'll find that it opens up some new shot possibilities. It's definitely not an easy tool to use in the Steadicam mode. I mean, a gimbal's a gimbal. People have been using them now for a few years. But in the Steadicam mode, it takes some practice. But it definitely opens up some possibilities.
That's pretty amazing. Are you actually, Veronica, are you getting all of his moves? Or are you close enough or far enough away to... You could keep recording. It's okay. Do you feel like, can you repeat a couple of those moves so we can put a little... Just to show some of the low to high stuff. Are you recording now? Okay. So this would be like, and you could get the person's foot. Yeah. That's pretty darn amazing.
So you can keep going.
It's just infinite because of the slip ring? No.
It hits a stop at about 380 degrees, somewhere around there. But, you know, it's to either side. So, I mean, I don't know of a reason why you'd want to keep going like a circus wheel, but you could up to a certain point, you know. But normally you just want to go from a low position to a high position. So 180 would be enough in most cases. But you have 390, 380 degrees. So that is plenty to actually go up and then come down, for example, in the opposite direction.
So this looks like an incredibly heavy rig. So you either have superhuman strength, or maybe a combination of that plus a lot of skill, or maybe this isn't really as heavy as it looks. So how heavy is this?
You know, if I had to guess, the whole thing together, maybe 40. You know, so I mean, as a professional Steadicam operator, we're sort of used to a lot of weight. I mean, you take an F65 with a big Cook anamorphic lens on it, and you put a 3-stage matte box, you put batteries on there, you put a video transmitter, you put Comtex, maybe now you're also putting a video transmitter as well. Once you're all said and done, you're actually heavier than this. So, especially if you're using like an Alexa Studio or something, you know, so we're used to the weights getting up there. And the Steadicam arm and vest does a really good job at distributing that load throughout your body into your legs. So it's not as bad as it looks, but certainly it's not for everybody.
So Pedro, I actually met Pedro a long time ago. We've been communicating through emails through the years. Pedro actually has his own company, Cinemilled, which is all over the place. You can see it here. And he actually, there was a need in the market for counterbalancing, putting extra weight to the back of the camera.
Right.
And so he actually made these special custom plates that fit into Ronins and other gimbals. So tell me a little bit about your business and some of the products you offer.
Yeah, well, so Cinemilled, we've been around for about 3 years now. And like you said, it arose essentially from my using the you know, different gimbals on actual jobs, and saying to myself, wow, if I could only do this, that would be great. And then because of my background, I was able to, you know, act on that impulse and came out with my first product, which was, you know, a universal mount for the first Ronin. And that slowly grew into more and more sort of smart, simple solutions, I would say, for the gimbal market. We do make a few things. We make a few little drone products here and there, and we want to make other things also. So it's Cinemilled, so eventually it could be anything that's cinema related. But for now, our focus is definitely the gimbal market. You know, we have a full line of Movi products, a full line of Ronin products, DJI, and the Tilta Gravity gimbal now is also a new one we were making products for. And yeah, so I mean, we got a good amount of solutions now that we're starting to be able to bring them all together. You know, so we partnered with ReadyRig in the sense of, I really like that solution. It's my favorite solution for gimbal support, and I've developed some products around it. So we now make a bunch of products now, accessories for the ReadyRig. And so when you combine our stuff with his product, it opens up even more possibilities. So, you know, it's a good deal. Yeah, and it's growing, and you know, we got some things we're working on that we hope to be able to release soon that will be more than just a simple smart solution. Will be sort of bigger products. So we're trying to grow into new areas.
Well, that's great, Pedro. So thanks so much for the interviews. A lot of great information. Probably found out more about this than we would otherwise. So really appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
So this is Keith Moreau signing off for Tech Move.
So that is Pedro from DJI and Cinemilled, and another fantastic product discussion about the Ronin 2. Keith, thoughts about the Ronin 2?
Thoughts about the Ronin 2? Well, I think that it is definitely a professional product. And
It's big. It looks like legit. That looks like your C100, C700 type of thing.
Yeah, it's well, you could probably put, any camera that you wanted on it, but it's definitely for the professional ones where they may be putting a small, like a Alexa Mini on there, or I don't know if you could fit a C700. I guess you could, but definitely larger cameras. One of the things that its claim to fame was just stronger motors. So one of the things that Pedro mentioned. Oh, by the way, I just have to, as an aside, so. It's not on the channel and it's not on the recording, but a lot of times I will forget the person's name, or I'll misspeak their name, and I'll have to just start the interview over. And it actually happened with Pedro. I actually called him Pablo, and I said, "So we have Pablo here from DJ," and then he like starts saying, "It's actually Pedro."
Poor guy.
But I was thinking about it. I know why I called him Pablo, because I had just watched this amazing series on Netflix called Narcos, and the main character is Pablo Escobar, a really famous criminal.
Yes.
So I think that was in my mind. So there's a reason for that. It's not just random.
Well, you know what, Keith? It's a good reason, I'll accept it in a court of law. But that's terrific. Good job, Dan Rather. So okay, so more about the Ronin 2.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things about it is it's got an extremely strong pan motor, and so one of the things about just gimbals in general is that, and just one of the weak points in gimbals is the pan motor. That's the one that goes from like panning from left to right, right to left. Yep. It's got to basically do the most work out of all the different, because that's the one that's probably going to go to the fastest, and it's going to have to move stuff around, especially with a lot of weight on the front or the back.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be really powerful. So that one is that's kind of this claim to fame for this particular gimbal. It's just got a super strong pan motor, and it's got a few other kind of cool things like a little LCD and some other stuff that he showed us in the interview. You can also, for the people that do have it on the an actual Steadicam, you can, I guess, lock off the pan motor. Mm-hmm. And because what will happen is if you have it on a Steadicam, as you turn the Steadicam, because one of the things about the Steadicam is you can actually pan the Steadicam itself.
Okay.
And the Steadicam operators use their fingers in a very delicate way to make very subtle movements to move stuff left and right, panning. And when you have a gimbal that's also trying to pan, kind of counteracting what you're doing because it wants to make it steadier, then it just messes everything up. So because you'll be panning on the Steadicam, and then the gimbal will say, "Oh, I'm just going to kind of slow this down to make it steadier." Right. And then it's kind of like a lag, like latency. Sure. So he was talking about that. So you can there's a setting to lock that off. So it'll still do the tilting and the rotation. Steadying. Well, actually, not the rotation, but the tilting rotation. But it won't actually do anything with the pan. It'll be locked off. It'll be like keeping the camera just stable in that position. So anyway, it's a pretty cool product. I don't think it's even yet for sale, but let me see. I'm just gonna see if it's even available.
I thought it was. They seem to be promoting pretty heavy on the DJI site.
They do, but you know what? It's actually not available yet.
Not yet. Huh?
Not yet. I mean, NAB wasn't that long ago, and I think they were going to come out in a couple months. And it's not even priced. Okay. I think they're looking at the market. But I'm looking at one of the websites, and it's got the price for the shipping. Mm-hmm. $12.70. I think it's a mistake, but it says $12.76 for the shipping, but no price on the actual camera.
That's pretty awesome. Right. Well, you can tell that by weight. So that's so that's weight and size. So that's probably relatively accurate. They just don't know what they want to charge for the thing yet.
Speaking of weight,
yes.
It's basically totally stripped down. It's about 10 pounds, 9 to 10 pounds.
Just the unit is the Ronin 2 alone with nothing on it.
Yeah. So it's
about
already
10.
heavier than most of the camcorders we'd use. And then with the big handlebar thing that it comes with.
Yep.
It comes with kind of like a big wheel type handle.
Right.
Not the typical traditional like two-handled things. It's more like a steering wheel.
Yes.
With that, I think that's another 3 pounds. So that's if you want to handhold it. Right. So if you're doing, want to do some weightlifting and you want to
it'll be a fantastic shoulder exercise for you. Terrific shoulder exercise.
And in fact, it's going to be featured in 24-Hour Fitness, the special room, the DJI bicep room.
Exactly. Fantastic. Good.
Anyway.
All right. Well, that is, now I'm going to try and see it again. Pedro Guimaraes of DJI and Cinemilled. Thank you very much, Pedro, for that. We're sorry we butchered your name during the actual interview. We hope you'll forgive us, but terrific product. And Keith, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Let's do this. Let's reset and get our next interview on cue, and we will deliver you more of this fun stuff at NAB 2017 right here on Tech Move. All right, Tech Move on the floor of NAB 2017, and we have the great pleasure of bringing in the folks of Blackmagic Design.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith, you were lucky enough to get Bob Caniglia on the floor and talk about the Blackmagic stuff and some of the new things that they've got going.
Yep.
Would you? What was the big announcement for them, if anything?
Actually, the big announcement was Resolve 14. That was the huge thing that they announced this year.
Okay.
Resolve is the color. Actually, it's DaVinci Resolve is the full name. DaVinci Resolve 14. It's the color correction, color grading software that they bought. That used to be like $100,000.
Oh wow!
And they bought it, and this was several years ago. They bought it and then basically made it free. They included.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Well, they include it with their any kind of camera. If you buy any camera from them, they will include DaVinci Resolve with it. So, and if you had to buy it on your own, it used to be like $600 to $1,000 at the Resolve Studio. But you can get a free version, which is almost the same thing for free, basically by just downloading it. So, and in fact, when I got my, because I got a Blackmagic Ursa, a mini original 4K used, and it actually came with this dongle. So it's like a little USB dongle, and it allows you to use the Resolve Studio, which has a few more features maybe, and it allows you to use this dongle to activate it. So that's kind of how you pay for it. You pay for the dongle, and then you can use the higher performing version of the software. But that was the big announcement there, but we didn't talk about that at all. I was interested in the Ursa Mini Pro. It's the kind of the version of the Mini that has built-in ND filters. That's its claim to fame.
Fantastic.
Other than that, and it has a few more buttons on the outside. It's got more accessible. Before, like with my version of the Ursa Mini, you have to open up to do pretty much anything, you have to open up this gigantic 5-inch LCD panel and do stuff and then flip it back when you don't want it. This one has a lot more controls on the outside, so that part's good. It's a little bit more easy to use in that way. And then they have this kind of monitor thing that goes on top, which is a really nice kind of studio monitor. So I actually had Bob remove the hood on it before we recorded, because it was kind of in the way, you couldn't see anything.
Sure.
So
sure.
He spent like a few minutes removing that, and I was joking him about disassembling his camera in front of us.
Well, he's a good sport, so
Yeah.
that's true. Let's roll the interview. This is Bob Caniglia of Blackmagic and our very own Keith Moreau of Tech Move, right here on the floor of NAB 2017.
So we're here with Bob Caniglia of Blackmagic Design. He's going to actually show us one of the newer cinema cameras from Blackmagic. And Bob, go for it.
All right. So this is the Ursa Mini Pro. So what we did with the Ursa Mini Pro is released it about a month ago, and it has a lot of tactile features on the outside for adjusting. In the past, it was only done from the flip-out screen, so now we can adjust things here. But one of the secrets that we had in there was Bluetooth connectivity. So now I have an app that we're going to release later this summer that will have full control. So like right now, I'm going to take control of the iris. So if we look up at the screen, I am taking full control of the iris, and I can do the white balance. So I have full control here. I could start recording. I could monitor what's going on, and then I can also do slate. So I can say, oh, good take, and I can enter in metadata. So we're going to release an app that has a certain amount of functionality, but we're also going to release the API so that people can create their own apps, because maybe somebody wants exactly this but does not want to have control over record, that kind of thing. So this software update will be free of charge. The Bluetooth technology is already included inside the Ursa Mini Pros already, and we'll turn those on with software later this summer.
That's great. So can we go back to the previous screen here? So it controls are there any other lens specific controls on this?
So, well, lens-wise, we have the iris, and I don't have it. I have the white balance things, but at some point we could, if we could control other things. Like I have the shutter angle, but we can do autofocus and things.
Is there a focus control possibility?
The possibility is there, and what the final app from us looks like, we're not really sure. But also the fact that people can create an app that could do all that.
So the API may have a focus ability.
Well, because it's similar to what you can do through, say, the link control. That capability is all the same capability you can do with the Bluetooth.
That's excellent. Okay, so this has been out about a month. I've always been excited about the Ursa Mini Pro, or actually the Ursa Mini when it first came out, and a couple things that held me off from getting it was the lack of the built-in ND, but now this has this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have ND filters right on the front, and it's a physical wheel. So actually, if I spin it, you can see, it slide around back to 0 there, maybe. Yeah, 1. So, so it's basically clear, 2 stops, 4 stops, and 6 stops. And, that obviously is new, but then the ability to have control of the iris on the outside, and you can switch around some of the buttons and knobs. You can take care of ISO and the shutter and move white balance. We actually have some programmable buttons, high frame rate, and then monitoring things even with the door closed. The on-off button, which we didn't have before on the outside, which is great. So if you have underwater housing type things, that'll be there. And also another add-on that we're showing at the show, we haven't announced a release date yet, but is the SD add-on. So you can do SD recording data. So we're going to have the SSDs. So with full data, so you'll be able to do raw recording. We're not 100% sure on the frame rate yet, but this will do data recording for raw as an add-on. So as you see, it gets added on, and then you can put the battery on the back of that.
How does it actually attach?
It screws on to, similar to the way that you screw a battery plate on. It has an attachment on the back of the back plane of the camera. And then it would have a Molex to go through in order to get to put your plate back here. And one other thing that we're showing on the show floor is this is an EF mount. You can get a PL mount and a B4 mount, and now we have a Nikon mount. So there's a Nikon mount option that will be released later this year as well. So the Nikon mount and the SSD add-on are something that's new at the show, something that Grant had hinted about in the release, but we're here now, and we'll have them, down the road in a couple months.
Oh, that looks great. That looks like a really modular design. The fact that you could just add this part on and move the battery back.
Yeah.
That's pretty clever. And then there's a little
That's the door.
Yeah.
And the good thing is with SSDs, sometimes the smaller ones need to have that little adapter on top, but you don't need it with this because there's a spring that pushes the SSD into the proper place no matter what width it is.
That's excellent. Speaking of storage on this unit, I know that it takes SDHC cards as well as CFast?
CFast too, yeah.
So what can you actually record to the SD cards?
So SD cards are for, clearly HD. Some lower frame rate 4K can be done. But RAW, you need a little bit beefier storage to do RAW. But there are, we have a list on the site of the cards that we support, as well as what frame rates and different size files. But, a lot of ENG type recording, they're not necessarily doing anything really large, not RAW for sure, and maybe some compressed ProRes files in HD or 4K that, SD cards would handle it.
So if I was recording 24p at ProRes HQ quality, would that work?
In 4K, maybe. I don't know that I have the 100% on that. HD for sure.
Okay, we'll look that up.
Yeah, actually you probably could, because we can do that in the video assist. So it would be the same technology.
Okay, great. That's a really economical alternative to the CFast cards. One of the things I was kind of curious about was autofocus on this particular unit.
Autofocus on this one. So I don't know if the lens handles it or not, but if it does, then we can get...
We have an autofocus lens.
I do have an autofocus lens, all right. So let's get to the menu and see what we can do with that. There it is. I have a focus button. So
yeah, this is...
So if I bring up focus, it's going to let me get on something else. It brings up the area, and then it goes through and did a focus on that.
So you basically go and you have to push and then it autofocuses?
Yeah, there's an autofocus button, and if I hit it, it brings up the square that it's going to actually change, and then it...
I can see it focusing. So is there a way to make it continuous so you don't have to push the button?
No, that's not a feature of usually not a feature of the lenses, and it would have to be too constant to be able to do that. So for constant focus, you need a parfocal lens for that kind of thing. Yeah.
So this button that you were pushing, or
right over here.
can that be reassignable to one of the outside buttons?
So you can do it in the setup. It's actually out here too. So it's the same focus button on the outside, but you could also, if you needed to assign it, if it was in a better place for you, you could move it to one of the function buttons.
That's great. So how is this unit doing out in the field?
So far great. We've shipped a large number of them. We still have more to build, which is always a good problem and bad at the same time. And we see a number of them at the show, which has been really kind of cool. When I go to do an interview, I'm like, hey, that's one of the new cameras. That's nice. That there's nothing wrong with that. But everyone has been really happy with it. I have a lot of DPs that have come up to me and go, oh, this is really, it's everything I had hoped for and more, and amazing that you guys were able to do this. And then I said, oh, well, did you see the Bluetooth app? And they're like, now you're really blowing my mind. And I think that's always exciting as a company you want to build products that solve problems and help people with workflow. And then if you can meet and exceed the expectation, then that's definitely what you were really hoping for. And so that's worked.
That's great. So I noticed we have this extra monitor thing on top. Tell me about that.
This is a studio viewfinder that we have. So when you're using it in a studio configuration, you can do that. And the beauty of the studio, this is much more traditional to what the studio camera guys are looking for. They wanted physical knobs so they can adjust rather than set up, touchscreen. It has a great tally light system built in, that comes when you return video to the Ursa Minis. And the Ursa Mini Pros. And so it also has a quick release plate, so you can actually pop this off pretty quickly. So if you had traditional EVF attached, you can still have this at the same time. And then if you want to move it from a studio config to go out and shoot ENG, say, you can just use the quick release to pop this off. So it's really a great industrial design that we announced last year and started shipping by the end of 2016, and it's done very well. You can actually, we include a set of numbers, and but you can turn on or off the intensity. You can, of the tally, and then also it has tally here for the operator, and you can have them independent because there are certain shows that don't want to have tally because it makes audience members or wherever look at things. So this way they can either have it on or off. So it's pretty good, cool functionality. But yeah,
We need to add some numbers to our iPad here. Little glowing numbers. What do you think?
that's right. iPad number 2. We'll look that way. So yeah, you can. It's just one of those hardware-based sort of viewfinders that have the tactical controls that traditional guys really wanted and have been very happy with it.
And I noticed this is mounted on top of what was previously the cinema camera, not a production camera. So what's the story about that?
Well, this camera is a hybrid camera to be able to do both because we do have return video feed into it. We can control it through our ATEM software to actually shade the cameras remotely. So we can turn it into a traditional television camera by doing that. And it actually has, on the headphone jack, it can have intercom. So you can actually talk back to the director through the headphone jack when you have, like either your iPhone headset or maybe a gaming headset, that kind of thing. Just plug it in, and now you're talking and using it in a traditional television camera. So it's kind of a hybrid.
So is this replacing the 4K production camera, the other Ursa, the larger Ursa?
Not necessarily. I mean, they all kind of have bits. That's one of the things we don't usually. The reason why this is built is much more for more ENG and on the shoulder. Where guys were shooting and needed to adjust things. If you're shooting a cinema type environment, the touchscreen you would just use, and that's, you don't really need buttons and knobs. But so this one kind of morphs into that. And the return video that we had included in the original Ursa Minis allow us to turn this also into a great television camera, and basically you do it whatever you want. And then of course you have interchangeable mounts, so now it's really, you could put on a B4 mount and use a traditional television lens, and then take that mount off and put on a PL mount and go out and shoot a movie. So it really is very flexible for a $6,000 camera.
It's pretty darn amazing. Well, thanks so much, Bob, for all the great information. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and have a great show.
It's Keith Moreau signing off for Tech Move.
Bob Caniglia from Blackmagic about the Ursa Mini Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks good. I mean, the video, again, folks, we want to encourage you to go to techmovepodcast.com, watch get the links to the YouTube videos that Keith is posting up there, and you can see what the camera looks like. And, it's a beautiful camera. Your thoughts, Keith?
I'm not sure if it's a beautiful camera.
Really?
Because now that I have one kind of pretty much the same shape and size and everything, the only thing that's different with mine is mine doesn't have an LCD on that. Do you see in the picture?
Yeah.
There's that kind of LCD on the outside of the LCD panel.
Sure.
That's kind of like the only thing that's different. And
Okay.
so I feel like Blackmagic took their design cues from like medieval weapons. And
Well, I do have to admit, it does kind of look like a ray gun.
when you actually hold one, and I'll have to bring one to you and just show you how kind of massive this thing is. Because, actually after like using it a little bit and moving around, it's pretty big.
Okay.
Pretty big compared to some of my other cameras. It's
Sure.
fine, but it feels like a tank. And the surfaces are all really metally and very, very
Very
kind of-
industrial feeling, maybe?
no, more like medieval, as I said, medieval armor.
Really? Wow.
It's amazing. It's like you could just run over this with, a truck a few times and it would just kind of go, ha, ha, ha. I'm still working. So I feel like it's just very, 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 very sturdy piece of gear. The camera itself,
Which could be good or bad, depending upon what you're doing, right?
I think it's, I think for kind of a setup, like a kind of a stagey type set piece, I think it's awesome. and really probably the best value by far of any of the cinema cameras. Well, it is. There's no doubt. I mean, it does all these different formats of ProRes. It's got amazing dynamic range. It's got built-in NDs, so it's got a little bit more use when you're running and gunning, but I don't think it's still that type of camera. And it's a really amazing value. What is it, like $6,000, something like that?
$6,000.
Yeah, something like that.
5,995.
Yeah, you can't beat it. It's a cinema camera that has amazing dynamic range and all these different record formats. So you have to add some stuff to it to make it really functional, like batteries and CFast cards and things, support gear and stuff like that, because it's kind of on its own, it's not very ergonomic. But still, there's nothing close to it. There's really nothing close to it. Maybe then, well, we'll talk about this in the next episode, but there might be some other cameras on the horizon that might start competing with it. But for now, no, it's on its own in this price class.
So it's the big guy on the block at this moment, but who knows? There's stuff on the horizon that's going to be coming out.
Possibly. They made. I think what's happening is I think some of the bigger competition, some of the more established competition like Panasonic, Sony, and Canon are kind of looking at this, saying, "Wait a second, these guys are taking some of our low end indie cinema business because they have a camera that does all this, raw recording and high end ProRes and stuff, and we don't.
Right.
Let's not knock Blackmagic off that pedestal." And so they're going to start coming out with cameras that are going to start compete maybe with that level of under 10K cinema cameras.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how Blackmagic can hold up with that as we see new products kind of jumping out in the marketplace, and I don't know. We'll find out. I know there's still a lot of people out there who love Blackmagic, so
yeah,
maybe brand loyalty will keep the interest high on that. But anyway, hey, Bob Caniglia, thank you so much. Keith Moreau, thank you so much.
Yep.
We're going to take a break here, pause, and reset for our next interview as we continue on with our coverage of NAB 2017 right here on Tech Move. Up next in our continuing coverage of NAB 2017 is, I want to say the company name is Bright Tangerine.
Mm-hmm.
Is this some about correct, Keith?
It is exactly correct.
Fantastic. And they have introduced a, what's the best way to describe it? An arm, I guess just an arm.
It's like a really, really super powerful, strong arm.
Tell me why we need something like this. Give me the reason why Bright Tangerine is going to make a fortune off this particular product.
Because most arms, especially for monitors, really suck.
Yeah, and they kind of drift a little bit. It doesn't really hold the weight. Is that correct?
They're just not that great, and they're not that strong, and they also, once they're tightened, that's it. They're either they're fully tight or they're fully loose. There's no kind of in between. So the thing that's kind of cool about this arm is that you can kind of tighten it halfway, and then you could still move it around. And then if you really want to tighten it so that it won't move at all, then you can tighten it further. And it's really super solid and in my opinion, maybe slightly heavier than it needs to be for most of the monitors that I have, but maybe if you were having a 20-pound monitor on it would be great. But the main thing is be able to kind of move stuff around while it's semi-tight. It's still got enough friction in it to hold up a fairly heavy monitor, but still, if you force it, you can move it a little bit more and get in the right spot, and then you can tighten it down. So that allows you for the one-man band or the people that are holding their cameras with their right hand, and allows you to reposition it with your left hand. Kind of slightly loosen it,
right? But
it won't like fall over if you loosen it, and then move it and then tighten it, and you can do all that with your left hand. Nice.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
well, let's go ahead and roll this interview that we have with Clinton Harn of Bright Tangerine. It's Clinton and Keith right here in our coverage of NAB 2017, right there on the floor. Here we go.
Hi, this is Keith Moreau here with Clinton Harn. He's actually representing Bright Tangerine, and I actually am familiar with this product because I have one of these. I don't have the tangerine colored one. I actually have the black one, but I really love it. So once you tell me about it, maybe give me some hints and other stuff.
Cool. So, hi Keith, how are you? For us, the whole concept behind the Titan arm was to find something that was self-supporting. With the plethora of arms out on the market, we wanted to do something different. But we also wanted to make things easier. Our whole ethos is making things easier on set. The Bright Tangerine Titan arm, I'm happy to say I named the arm, came from the need to be able to do things really quickly, but also have that sort of robust sort of quality, and also the sturdiness, and more importantly, to support anything that you want to put on there. So we designed this arm based on a transmission core system. It holds 2 tons of metric pressure from end to end. This transmission core does not use any mechanical teeth. It does not wear, and it basically has that same strength as well you get with a lot of rosette systems. So if you look on here, the transmission core is a refined system which basically has this ability to self-support. And what I mean by that is, with most articulating arms, you generally will have to use one hand or left hand, and then articulate the arm anywhere you want, and then tighten that down. The cool thing about the Titan arm is that it has 2 locking joints and 1 pivot joint. So what I mean by that is that you have a locking joint at the bottom, locking joint at the middle, and then you have a pivot system on the top. What that allows you to be able to do is that by using just a slight twist here on the ratchet lever, you have the ability to now actually articulate that arm anywhere you want and still have it in the same position. That's really handy when you need to be on set and adjust your monitor or any device that you mount on the arm with one hand, or leaves you the other arm to do something else as well.
Actually, can you just do what you just did again, just to show me the intricacies? Maybe do it in slow motion or something.
Okay, cool. So again, like I said, you can completely loosen the arm, right, which gives you, like I said, the articulation, right, where it's loose. But then all you simply need to do is maybe just do a couple of very, very small minor turns, like here, to induce what we call a drag system in the transmission core. So very, like subtle movement. And then now I can literally move the arm and articulate the arm anywhere I want and still maintain that position. Okay? The difference also with this arm is that it has a protection mechanism in the arm, meaning that with most arms also, when you over tighten those arms, you can actually thread the joints or also wear the joints. What we do is we provide this system in here where I'm going to basically now tighten the arm completely, and it will not over tight, it will stop. And what that does also now is still provide that payload, which is 8 kilograms worth of payload, which is 16 pounds for Imperial, right? You have that strength, okay? You can see I'm literally leaning on this, right? It's fully tightened, but with the pivot joint, it allows you to still be able to articulate the monitor. So that is, again, very handy and allows you to be able to position the monitor anywhere you want, okay? So that's the wonderful thing about that. Yeah.
So in that previous scenario where you have it kind of half tightened,
yep,
and you were able to move it around, is this not moving, this part?
No, that moves as well.
This is all,
yeah.
It's all kind of fluid.
Yes, exactly. So that transmission core allows like those. So again, the 2 locking joints will move and allow you to, like I said, again, articulate this arm anywhere you want and still maintain that position.
Now, on my arm, what I've noticed is that this elbow is much tighter in almost every scenario than these top 2.
Yeah. Okay, so what that does is we have a device in the transmission core called a sleep system. When you fold the arm up, it sort of reset. You have to reset. It's a normal thing where you will undo the lever, and it takes a bit of elbow grease, what I call elbow grease, just to pry it apart, and that will basically open the arm. And because of the drag system, it allows you to open the arm slightly. So it's actually perfectly normal. I think the problem with a lot of people is that their understanding of articulation arms is that it's completely loose, but we induce the drag system in there to maintain that strength and that self-supporting mechanism. So it's actually perfectly normal. So like I said, again, if you ever decide that you want to completely loosen an arm, You can loosen the arm completely with a ratchet lever, and then just move this up and down slightly to loosen the joints. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, when I actually first got the arm, I did kind of an unboxing on my podcast, and I was like, okay, I've got it. I'm really excited about this. And I said, it's not moving. It's not coming apart.
It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. And that's, like I said, it's the sleep mechanism that we, the sleep mechanism, the sleep technology that we utilize in the transmission core to give it that self-support mechanism.
So what I said was just basically when it doesn't work, just force it. Pretty much with all cinematography gear, if it doesn't work the first time, just force it.
Well, yes. Well, this
as a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is designed specifically to where you can force anything, and like I said, it's built, like a tank, and you won't break it. To the point, even if you over loosen this section as well, some arms you'll shear the ratchet levers off. This, like I said, it just stops. You can't unloosen it or over tighten it.
That's really awesome. Well, I'm really happy with my arm, and actually maybe after this little interview, I'm going to actually talk to Clinton a little bit more about the arm and some of the things that I've done to it, which I think maybe enhance it a little bit. But I'm going to do it off the air.
Cool.
I'm here again with Clinton. He's actually going to show me some of the new technology to even enhance the Tangerine Titan arm.
Yeah, cool. So we realized there was a request also for our customers, as far as the Titan arm is concerned, to provide sort of accessories at both ends. So that's what we're currently doing. There's, like I said, a plethora of different products that we're going to come out with soon that allow you to be able to adapt accessories at the end of each arm. Anti-twist functions. We understand that with arms, there's always this issue of twisting, and also quick release system. So here I have a little 50mm rail adapter that stays on your monitor, and it simply just mounts quick release onto the arm. Okay, and it's a quick release mechanism that allows you to basically do that.
Okay, cool. And how about on this side?
On this side, yeah, it will be fun for both sides. So it'll be both on the 3/8 side as well as the 1/4-20. You can actually then swap for where on both sides you can have either 3/8 or a 1/4-20 or 3/8 1 and a 1/4-20. So we're making accessories. On one side of the arm, there's a Loctite, which it's self-serviceable, so customers can actually change and self-service and put on whatever accessories they want.
By Loctite, you mean the stuff you squeeze on?
No. I mean actually the nut that goes in there, you can actually use the Allen key and actually take it off. So you can see here, there's a little key there, or a little nut joint. That's a Loctite, so you just undo it, and then you basically can change the whole mechanism here as well to accommodate a different accessory on there. Actually, you can see those are there as well. Yeah.
So do you have an example of something that's been switched out?
We haven't brought out the accessories yet. It's all been announced at NAB, and it's something that will roll out throughout the year. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it.
This is Keith Moreau signing off for Tech Move.
Clinton Harn of Bright Tangerine.
Yep.
And our own Keith Moreau with Tech Move.
Yep.
Pretty nice unit, I guess, huh?
Yeah,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it, but you did. So tell me what your thoughts were.
Well, I actually have the unit, so I know.
Yeah,
I own it.
So you must like it.
I do like it. I've used it on a few shoots. Well, actually, quite a few. And yeah, when I want to have the especially larger monitors out, I will set it up. One of the things that I've added to it is well, I don't know if they're competitors or not, but I've added a Sakudo part to it, and I even told Clinton about it. The problem with all arms, no matter how great they are, including this Titan arm, is the bottom where it screws into whatever it is holding it. Like could be maybe a 1/4-20 that's on the camera, or maybe on a stand, or most likely on the camera.
Right.
They will if you put a lot of leverage and force on it, they will unscrew. They will unscrew from the camera part.
Okay, right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you're just doing
with enough movement and you adjusting it here and there, it's bound to loosen up at least that point.
Yeah, and then you have to screw it back in, and then so that's happens to all arms. It's not just the Bright Tangerine arm. They are actually working on an attachment to help with that, but they don't have it out yet. So in the meantime, I've gotten these. They're called Zacuto Zuds and ZUD, I think. And what they are is they're little either 3/8 or 1/4-20 tapped, kind of like little 15mm small short rods, like maybe 1.5 inches long, or maybe 1 inch long. and they're tapped with a quarter 20, and you screw them in, and they've got another part that actually kind of tightens down onto the quarter 20 that you screwed onto. So like for example, with this Titan iron, I would take the Zud, I would screw it onto the bottom part where I'd normally attach to the camera. And so they have the monitor on one end. And then on the other end, I screw the Zud on and I tighten it down so it cannot be unscrewed. And then I put a 15 millimeter type rod holder onto my camera or onto wherever. And that 15 millimeter rod holder that has a little crank nut to tighten it, that I can loosen or tighten, that is totally secure. Those will not unscrew.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that way I can do a quick release. I can just shove it into my camera socket that has a little 15-inch socket on it, tighten it down, and it will never ever move. And that's kind of like the main solution for these arms that start unscrewing.
At least at for this particular point, right?
Yeah,
So
at this
we
point,
develop
I mean,
something.
you could potentially also put a like a NATO type connector, which I also use a lot, but still you have that issue of it unscrewing somehow from the arm part that's the quarter 20 or the 3/8. See, that's the thing about the Zacuda Zud, is it actually locks down. So imagine a threaded hole that has a little split on it, and in that split there's a tightening section, a tightening nut.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit maybe slightly larger than the quarter 20 thread, and then you screw it on so it's tight in there, but you could still unscrew it if you put enough force in, right? But then you take this little take a little wrench and you tighten down and make that quarter 20 tapped hole even smaller, totally locked into the thing that you screwed it into. So that's kind of how it works. So I don't know if you can imagine that, but that is a very good idea, and I have a few of those, and I've used them for things like this.
Well, I just like the fact that you're using it. You know,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like that it's still useful. It's still something that you use on a couple of your rigs already, and anytime we can get a usage of something more than a couple of times is always a really fantastic thing. So
Rather than collecting dust in my drawers of unused
like your
gear.
GH1, exactly. Your GH1.
Well, that had some use back in the day.
It did.
6 years ago.
Exactly.
7 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever I got it. Oh, one thing I want to mention, Clinton Harn is
Yes.
actually kind of famous. He's actually a cinematographer,
Okay.
and he's from Australia. And he used to be one of the main contributors to News Shooter, which is a really great website and blog that I find out a lot about all this new gear from. And so he's actually a really well-known cinematographer, especially down there. And like he knows Jason Wingrove, like I mentioned that we'd interviewed him, and they're buddies, and so he's a pretty cool guy, and he actually said he wouldn't mind being interviewed too. So maybe in the future we'll have him on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No, he sounds really great, and I'm glad he was there representing Bright Tangerine. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. We've got a couple more interviews coming up that we'd like to share with our fantastic listening audience. So let's get those ready to go, and we will come back with more of our coverage of NAB 2017. It is Rod and Keith right here on Tech Move. It is Tech Move's continuing coverage of NAB 2017, and we're going to move on to a very cool item that, Keith, you were able to talk to some of the folks over at SmallHD, and they have a nice new monitor that they're going to introduce to us.
Yeah. Just a little behind the scenes about actually getting to the SmallHD booth. So one of the things about the SmallHD booth, and particularly this monitor, is it's a high brightness monitor, so it's meant for maybe using outdoors if you need to. And that's actually quite an advantage because most, especially older technology monitors, are kind of dim.
Yeah.
And like I have a SmallHD DP7, I think, no, DP6, and I got that a while back, and maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, quite a while back. Because like I think it was their first monitor, and it was really highly reviewed. And at that time, there was nothing like it. that was that small, and I think I paid like $1,300 for it. I mean, it was not cheap. It has SDI inputs and all those extra things in it. But looking at it now, it seems super, super dim. And I don't think it's just because it's, older. I think it's just that technology is improved. So, but anyway, in order for SmallHD to show that off, they actually had their booth outside. So I actually went to the Vitech Group booth. Vitech Group, is it? What's the one that owns? Yeah, Vitech Group. They're actually own SmallHD. Vitech owns a bunch of companies like Manfrotto and other companies.
Right.
Yeah. So when I was at the Manfrotto booth, I actually asked like one of the people, "Where's the SmallHD booth?" I thought it was maybe here since this is Vitech, and the lady said, I think it's outside, but I don't know where it is. So I was misdirected several times, and eventually got to the point where it's kind of like this parking lot that's outside, but not in the front. I went to the front parking lot of NAB, and I asked people, "Where's the SmallHD booth?" "Oh, I don't know." So I went back inside.
Aren't there directories or maps that they give you guys as far as where booths are, where vendors are?
There are places to get maps, but you have to go to the information booth, which is could be really far away. So once you get into one of the hall rooms, there's really not that much information. The main kind of entrance hall has a information area.
Okay.
But then that's it. So we were kind of far away from that point.
All right.
So and then I usually have a really good computer map of the show, but for some reason I couldn't log into the NAB app.
At
Fantastic. The show. Yeah, that was really convenient.
Yeah.
So we just walked around for a while. It was annoying. But anyway, we walked, eventually found it. We walked outside and walked pretty far, like a couple blocks, and eventually found the SmallHD booth out. And it was really windy and sunny out there, and it was perfect for demoing that monitor.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. I think that the whole feature set for this thing is how it's supposed to be really super useful in direct sunlight.
Yes.
And so they seem to have gotten I don't even know why they used a canopy they should have just been out there in the baking sun and just showed off the stuff there, but I'm sure it's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it worked well. I think there was an option to like take it into the sun and check it out, but yeah. It was, and then we met with Wes Philips who we had actually interviewed 2 years prior. Mm-hmm. Talking about the 501 and 502,
right? Which
I purchased after that, and this is kind of similar in a way, but in a way better. So
well, yeah. I'm personally very excited about this because Keith, when I get my A6500 or GH5 or Polaroid camera. I'm very interested, especially for the A6500 because, the screen, the LCD screen in the back has exactly 2 directions that it goes in. I think I would need to have an external monitor of some sort. And, of course, in typical Rod Louie fashion, I'm very much entertaining some $50, monitor, or maybe using my iPhone, or maybe just a mirror, something like that.
Like a little rear view mirror,
just
like
a little rear view mirror. Mount I'm going to DIY a rear view mirror.
It says objects may be farther.
Exactly, it'll be completely distorted. My focusing will be completely off by it. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm thinking about doing. So I'm interested to see what SmallHD. Because I'm sure this isn't going to be my $50 or $100 monitor that we're talking about, and I'll be very excited to hear about it.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, here it is, Wes Philips of SmallHD, along with our very own Keith Moreau, right here on our continuing coverage of NAB 2017 with TechMove.
Hi, this is Keith Moreau here with TechMove. We're at the SmallHD booth out in the beer garden. This is out in the boonies of the NAB Convention Center. We had to hike for miles, but we're here. And we're here outside, and I think the reason they wanted to be outside was to demonstrate the new features of this amazing new monitor that Wes Philips of SmallHD is actually going to tell us about. So how's it going, Wes?
I'm doing great. That's exactly right. People are like, why are you outside? And then they look at the monitors and they go, oh, I see. Because we're basically demonstrating all daylight viewable displays right now, including this new beauty. It's a $500 800 nit display designed for DSLRs. It comes with this specialized bracket. It slots right into the hot shoe and then gives you an additional hot shoe on the side, so you're not losing the hot shoe, because obviously you need a microphone or you need a light too, right? It's really great. It's, it basically takes the screen on the back of your display and changes it into something that you really can see in a bright outdoor environment like here in the Vegas sun. So it's kind of an exciting thing. It's very powerful too. It's only got one HDMI input, but all of the features in the monitor are the same as even on our high-end displays. You've got very detailed waveforms, the whole pages system, the ability to load LUTs via a full-size SD card. But I think the party piece of this monitor, and that makes it special, is the fact that we've got the ability to take the power from the Sony L series battery here and pump it out of an output. And so if you have a DSLR like a Sony or a Canon or Nikon or Panasonic, we'll sell these little battery eliminators that plug into that and then plug into the battery port on the camera, and you actually power the camera from the monitor. So like on a Sony A7, those eat batteries when they're recording 4K. You get like an hour of record time. Well, a battery on here could drive the whole thing for 2.5 hours straight. So it really improves the usability of those DSLRs. And so there's kind of a symbiotic relationship between this monitor and that. And for only $500, it's a very affordable display, given it's, the cheapest daylight viewable display as well.
That's awesome. So that's great, because now instead of getting an external battery adapter, you can just use your monitor and then power your A7 batteries, which last about 5 minutes, and instead put a Sony L series battery on the back. And you could put a gigantic one, probably power for an hour or two, right? Or maybe like 3 hours. So I actually have a few of your monitors, and I have the 502, I believe. So what's the difference between that monitor that I have and this one?
The 502 has SDI port, so again, it kind of skews toward the professional market. The 502 also supports the Sidefinder EVF mount. This does not, and so there's extra bits of technology that would have to be in here that, in order to get the cost lower, we kind of had to remove. And the 502 is 1080p versus 720p here. The 502 is not touchscreen, which on our higher end displays we tend to not do touchscreen in order to keep the fingerprints off the display. But in a more kind of consumery type product, we felt like that's maybe a more acceptable interface, and people are used to interacting with their phones and iPads and all that sort of stuff with the touch. So people seem to be enjoying the experience here, but it is definitely skewing toward kind of a lower end feature set than the 502.
But then you get the high brightness, which makes up for a lot of that.
Exactly. So that, technology catches up with itself. So we'll be looking at doing a 502 upgrade at some point to provide it with high brightness and things like that. So yeah, things are moving along pretty quickly, but we are trying to, provide really good value in each product we come out with, whether it's on the high end or the low end like this one.
That's awesome. Okay, so a couple of years ago when we interviewed Wes, when I look back to the interview, he mentioned that he started SmallHD because he had won some contest, and we didn't really get into it. And I was wondering if maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, and also if you do any filmmaking now, or what your current status is in that regard.
Sure, yeah. Trying to make the long story short.
You can keep it long. It's okay.
Yeah, so I grew up interested in video and did a lot of like stop frame animation and stuff like that on whiteboards with my brother when I was like 10, and then eventually we started doing video enough to where my dad invested in us, and we got computer that would do it. This was before IMAX existed, so it was kind of a big investment for him, but we just loved it and dug into it, and got really pretty good at post-production stuff, and then eventually started wanting to learn how to do production, like how to light things, how to make things look legit. And very shortly after, we sort of launched a little company to start doing local ads to sort of kind of get our feet wet in that. We found a contest. It was the very first Doritos Super Bowl contest called Crash the Super Bowl. And with 4 days left till the submission deadline, we decided to enter. So we thought of an idea and shot and edited and submitted an ad to that contest in those 4 days. And
Well, just what did you shoot it on? How did you record it? Lenses?
so that was, we shot it on a JVC HD 100, I think is what it was called. It used the HDV codec 720p recording to tape. And we actually, to make it look better, we used a 35 millimeter adapter lens, because this was before the DSLR revolution, where you could get big sensors and all that really great depth of field without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. So the quality was pretty crappy on the codec that aired in the Super. It was probably the worst that you'd have in a Super Bowl ad. But that said, people resonated with the ad. It scored number 4 in the ad meter out of all of the other 60 ads that played that day. So it was a pretty popular ad. And that sort of shot us forward. We didn't have to make any more sales calls about doing, sales to actually do production. And so as we were upping our production value, we realized that we needed a monitor, because we were shooting with these 35 millimeter adapters that had shallow depth of field. So we needed something HD to focus with. And we were also recording to a computer, like a lot of these onboard recorders do, but it was a full-size machine back then. And we were looking for a monitor that could handle both those things. And literally nothing existed that was actually an HD resolution, even though we knew the panels existed in other technologies like netbooks. So we started tinkering, started trying to put that technology together, mainly just for our own use, and then realized that there was a pretty big market out there for that. And so by winning that contest, it kind of shot us down that road. And then after we had launched our first product and we were kind of developing our second product, which was the DP6, we realized that there was another contest going on, and we actually entered that. We submitted, this is the craziest thing, we submitted 2 ads under 2 different names so that Doritos wouldn't have as much of a clue, and they selected both of them for the finalists of the top 6. So 2 of our ads were in the top 6, and we ended up winning one of those ads, and we ended up with a cash prize from that, and we used that cash to fund the inventory buy on the DP6, which was like really the big product that sort of entered this market and sort of changed the game. Most of the other companies that make monitors created a product that looked just like the DP6 and had the similar UI and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of cool to be a little basement shop that kind of changed the industry here a little bit from price point, resolution, and capability of the monitor.
So do you do any filmmaking now?
Here and there. It's not as much as I'd like to. I really enjoyed the experience of just like the Doritos ads, because it was really just kind of do whatever you want as long as Doritos was involved somehow. I like that kind of thing, that sort of creative freedom. Every once in a while we do something in the office. A couple years ago we did sort of a Wes Anderson spoof with our DP7, and I really enjoyed doing that. So I do it as much as I can, but it's really not as regularly as I'd like.
And when you do stuff, what do you shoot it with? And what monitor do you use?
The monitor answer is easy. I think the camera varies. We've shot on things that range. We've shot on F35, like an old F35, down to a pocket cam from Blackmagic. But I really like the Sony A-series cameras right now. They just, they're really crushing it from an image quality standpoint. But they do need a little help on the battery life, and that's why we came out with this guy.
Great tie-in. Well, I think we've taken enough of your time. I really appreciate the backstory, and this monitor looks awesome. I think I'm going to order one. By the way, if I want to order it, can I order it now?
It will be available for pre-order in the next week or so, but go to our website and you can sign up, and we'll send you an email when the pre-order opens up. The official ship time is June. We're trying to push for earlier than that, but we'll keep you posted.
Okay. Then thanks so much for your time.
Thanks again, Keith.
Keith Monroe here for Tech Move, signing off from the SmallHD booth.
That's Wes Philips from SmallHD, along with Keith Moreau from Tech Move. I am Rod Louie in our continuing coverage of NAB 2017. SmallHD, very, very impressive, Keith.
Home run.
It's really got me thinking, and I don't like to think that hard. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, this is gonna. So here's the thing. A good monitor can actually, believe it or not, a good monitor can make you a better cinematographer.
I'm afraid that I might have to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, just by what Wes is talking about and some of the other things that I've researched about it versus like my $50 one that I thought about buying and stuff like that. You can do so much with this unit that I mean, you would be wanting nothing else but just this item. I think you can add LUTs to it and stuff. What do you call it? LUTs?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can add LUTs.
You can add to that. You can power a camera, like especially a A6500, using the monitor itself by putting on one of those huge Sony batteries on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of neat stuff on it. Plus, it has this really nice arm on it where you can put, external microphone on it and all this kind of thing. And the arm works really well with swiveling and, so you can do vlogging type of content making, all kinds of neat stuff.
Yeah. It's a home run. It's going to outsell all their other products. It's back ordered. I mean, there's tons of orders out there. I actually ordered 2 of them because I want to have one on. Well, I do a lot of 3 camera shoots. I already have a 501, which is really similar to this, but probably not as good in some ways. I think the only appreciable difference, and I don't know it's an advantage or disadvantage, is this doesn't have a little joystick on it, the focus, and the 501s and 502s have a little joystick on them. So you don't have to touch the screen to get around. But actually, I kind of feel like touching the screen is better in a way because it's more direct and fast.
Well, and this thing is total touch screen, right?
Yeah, it is. That's all it is. That's the interface. It's the touch screen. You can't do anything else other than touch the screen. And power it on and off. So I don't think there's any buttons on it. But it's other than that, I think probably it's the screen size is similar to the 501s and 502s. It's a 5-inch, which those are as well. The battery powering other devices, as you mentioned, is pretty darn cool. So
I particularly like that because all the kind of like rig setups that I've seen for A6500 and even GH5 are using a lot of those external battery banks.
Yeah.
And
they have to if you do any long shoots.
Right. And if you've got this thing, that's one more piece eliminated right there,
It is. Like I bought this kind of expensive Adamus power station. Actually,
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of does the same thing, except it's this big bulky thing about the same size as my A7s, and it'll last forever. And it's got a lot of amazing features, but I don't need that now if I have one of these monitors.
Right.
So
right.
I don't have to bring that extra thing along now.
Because isn't your Adamus thing? Isn't it? Can we say a little bit bigger in size
than what this monitor?
Yeah.
It's probably bigger. Yeah, it's definitely thicker. You can put 2 gigantic Sony L batteries on it,
right?
And then it's got indicators on it, and yeah, it's definitely if you measured the cubic volume of it, it's definitely bigger than this monitor.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't get the monitor too. So you get the monitor, right, and you get power source, and you get a nice little swivelly. Probably better than a typical ball head.
Right. The arm looks very impressive. It looks like you can also hang other stuff on it too.
Yeah, you could put a little shock mount, a microphone on the side if you want, or other stuff. You could probably put whatever you want on the side.
Right.
And the way that it's designed, ball heads are kind of like move all around in all directions, so they don't really stay straight up and down. When you loosen them, it's kind of up to you to get them oriented back.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a cool design because the tilt, it tilts just it's kind of like a little tripod, like a pan head on a camera.
Yeah.
So you can't really roll it. Like you can't change the roll, which you don't want to change the roll anyway on a monitor. You always want it to be level. So it's pretty amazing design.
Yeah.
It's like all ball heads should be like this instead of the way they are. It makes you have to mount it from the edge to do that, but yeah, awesome.
What did you think of it? You saw it live and in person, direct sunlight. What did you think of that?
I was outside. It was totally visible, way more visible than any iPhone or any other type of tablet device that you might use still look good. The high brightness didn't sacrifice the way it looked. It still looked really nice.
So totally useful for fine focusing. I think it does. I think it does punch focusing too, I believe.
Oh yeah, it's got super capable punch in. It's really similar to the 501 in that way. You can zoom in I think 8 times, which is good enough for any kind of focus.
Yeah.
Really critical 4K focus. Yeah. So just no brainer. Bought 2 of them or ordered 2 of them. I also got the kit that comes with it, the battery extension or dummy battery replacement kit.
Okay.
So you can buy. You don't have to get anything. If you get the regular monitor, it's like $500. But if you want to put a dummy battery into your camera, then I think that part is like $40. It's like a cable that goes from the SmallHD into the battery compartment of your A7 or whatever camera you have. And I think it's the same battery for your possible A6500.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not sure, maybe the A6500 can be powered by USB only, but I don't think the A7s can be powered by USB only.
I believe that the 6500 can be powered by USB.
Okay, then if you got that camera, then you probably wouldn't need anything extra. But I think I needed it for my A7500.
Mm-hmm.
I think the USB, maybe it assists the internal battery, but like maybe makes it last longer, but I don't think it can completely replace it. So, but with the dummy battery, putting it in place of the battery, it'll last as long as the gigantic L battery lasts on your monitor.
Right.
So yeah, no brainer. And I guess I just want to talk a little just about kind of good monitors in general, because I said that it can make you a better cinematographer.
Sure.
And I think, I mean, obviously focus is really important, and being able to punch in and focus is key for getting good shots. You can kind of do that with your camera though, right? It's not something that, like, if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be able to focus, right?
Right.
It just makes it a little bit easier.
Yep.
But the thing that I think is really, really, really helpful for is exposure, and tonal balance, especially with the false color and the waveform controls. But a lot of it's the false color. You can use the false color to really see how your image is going to be, like how well exposed different parts of the image are. Like if you want the side of that person's face to be underexposed, well, the false color will tell you. Your eyes won't fool you. Just switch over to the false color exposure screen, and it'll say, oh, okay, that side of their face is like a little bit dark, but I kind of like that. And this side is maybe a little overexposed, but that is okay. But the main part of their face is right in there, right in that green kind of level. The way that false color works is it's kind of like a posterized version of the image. So different colors have different exposure levels.
Mm-hmm.
So like green is usually like 50%, and yellow is like 90%, and gray is gray or blue is like 20%. So if you see a lot of yellow in your image on the false color, you're probably overexposing everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you see a lot of yellow in somebody's face, they're probably overexposed, and you're going to lose detail in their face. So that's just an example, but it's just having experience at looking at those false colors and then looking at the real image that you see it in front of you and comparing that, and having a lot of practice doing that and over and over and over, it's going to make you a better cinematographer.
I would imagine, and it just seems like the SmallHD focus just is so accurate. I mean, like, a lot of these cheaper monitors, they say, oh, colors are great, and they all work pretty well and stuff like that for the money. But I think that with just the level of detail that the focus can put out, I think is the thing that's going to make a difference, at least for even someone like myself.
Yeah.
A lot of big features. I mean, just so many that, when I'm looking at the cheap ones and I'm saying, well, okay, it's good. I guess it's just an external monitor and really that's it. But this focus thing, it can do that, and it's almost as if the monitors is the secondary thing, right? I mean, the brightness is an added bonus. The power pack is an added bonus. The being able to do all the things you just spoke about, those are just huge.
Yeah, it's they're gonna sell a lot. They're
Yeah.
gonna sell a lot
When
of
are
these
you
little monitors.
when are you expecting yours to arrive?
Last I heard, it was pretty soon. Like, well, right now. It's towards the end of June.
Yeah.
When we're recording this, so it was supposed to be shipping now. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'll let you know when I get it.
Yeah.
I can bring it by and show you.
I mean, I think that would be fabulous. I think it's going to be just terrific. I'm excited to. Well, first I got to get a camera first, but but then that'll be one of the next things that I pick up. So that'll be fantastic. All right. Great. Hey, that's Wes Philips from SmallHD talking about the SmallHD Focus. Keith, fantastic. I'm glad that you didn't have to lay out like a popcorn trail to have to be found after looking for the booth there. So I'm glad you found it without any incident. So thank you.
It was hot enough to pop popcorn out there.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But, and what's great about that product is that's what sells the product, right? Is that extreme light and all this kind of stuff. But those poor guys, I mean, poor Wes, he must be, gee whiz, can we get at least a cooler in here or something? Poor guy. Anyway, all right, that's SmallHD. The product is Focus. And we are Tech Move, and we're going to come back and we're going to share another interview in our continuing coverage of NAB 2017. We'll be right back. Keith, you won't believe it, but we're down to our final interview of NAB 2017. And it has been so far a terrific ride. A lot of nice products, even though, really nothing earth-shattering, but still, a good amount of stuff that's coming out. And I think this, for our final interview, certainly a lot of great things happening here. And specifically, we're going to be talking to the fine folks over at Hoodman and a person that we've talked to before, Mr. Bob Schmitt.
Yep.
Was good enough to share a little bit of time with you. Why don't you talk about Bob and the Hoodman folks over there?
Well, Bob and I have struck up kind of a semi-humorous friendship. I think he's kind of like a comedian in training or something, and so I humor him by going along with his act. No, not really. He's a nice person. He's very funny. They're brother. I think the Hoodman guys are like brothers. At least there's a couple brothers in there, and so they all have this kind of rapport with each other. And they were like, we had this super long interview, and we're joking around and doing all this weird stuff, and they're kind of like, "What's going on here?" They're kind of looking at us, but we just kept going. And but Bob was showing off one of the new products. They have a kind of a cool new product that they came out with. And another thing is, one of the things that we didn't see there was the Hoodman Dome. So normally they have this kind of like a big tent, like a bouncy house.
Right.
That's the Hoodman kind of logo, and it wasn't there this year. And we talk a little bit about why it wasn't there.
Well, and it's very red. Their whole folks, you got to get on on YouTube and take a look at how red it is. I mean, I'm looking at a still of it right now, and it's actually blurring my eyes right now. It's so red.
Yes, it's just saturated the red channel.
Right. It's just that red just. So, anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, let's roll this, shall we,
Okay,
Keith?
let's
This
do
is
it.
Bob Schmitt of Hoodman and our very own Keith Moreau. And it is NAB 2017 right here on Tech Move.
Keith Moreau here from Tech Move Podcast. Hey, Keith Moreau. And we've got Bob Schmitt here of Hoodman. And we actually, you may remember from the famous or infamous interview of last year at NAB, we interviewed Bob, and we actually, there was something behind us that was kind of a landmark to the Hoodman brand. And we notice now, and you can pan over just a little bit to their booth, you can notice that there's no what is it called?
It's called the Hoodman Dome. And he is a 20 by 20 character that reaches heights of 20 feet. But he's been banned from the NAB show. Why, we don't know. We feel as though they wanted us to go into a linear fashion with this 20 by 10 booth.
You know, I actually heard that.
Funny. Sorry.
I actually heard that the Hoodman Dome has been sighted by NORAD over the northwest coast. I think it's Hoodman and is teaming up with Mothra.
They have about the same mass Mothra, the floating Hoodman. They've been seen over the California desert as well, on their way out to the coast.
So, you know, we were looking when we were actually looking for Hoodman, because we seek you out every show now.
You do what out?
We seek you out. We seek you out on every show. We're pretty much stalking you.
No. I think it's something when you came up to me for that second time, I was a little shocked. I was a little confused, but I realized who it was. You were my friends. You were friends of another cause for the Hoodman loss of our dome and getting moved back into the deeper cavernous areas of this trade show floor, Keith.
So, Bob, when are we going to see the Hoodman Dome again?
I believe he will come out of, he's actually in, there was an intervention, and we had a little bit, I didn't really want to say that in the beginning because I felt that, you know, but I know my fans and my people and your people will want to know really what happened. We found him in a home in Palmdale, California, and he had a lot of some things around him. I don't know. Paraphernalia. And he went immediately to the rescue center in Malibu, California, where he spent the last 2 months at the cost of $200,000. Sorry.
Yeah, Hoodman Dome can only consume pure air. No helium, no nitrogen, just pure air.
I think, yes. And I think that's partly due to his otherworldly type of existence. But what we found, though, after 10 solid years of NAB, he just reached a point at which he completely maxed out. He melted down. He gave up and basically threw it all out the window and moved to Palmdale. We think he moved to Palmdale. We're not sure. That's where the interventionist said it was going to be happening. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've concluded the episode of what happened to Mr. Hoodman Dome, and now we're actually going to talk about the Hoodman products. So what's the most exciting product out here in your booth today, and like what can I buy right now that I'm just going to be so happy about?
I think as we sit here, our Hoodman Launchpad, which is basically, it became something that all of a sudden when the dome left, the Hoodman Launchpads appeared. Clear an area to set down your Launchpad. Have a safe, dust-free environment to lift off from. It's nice to know your motors and everything around your drone won't get dusted, your camera. So it's a really cool product. Launchpad. 3 foot, 5 foot, 8 foot. 60, 100, 300.
Okay, so it's a collapsible disc that you lay down and then
show you.
Show us, please. Yeah, let's do it.
Over. Oh, it disappeared. Hang on. Okay. The Launchpad. This is a 3-footer. Around the perimeter is weight. Are we still doing all right? Okay, perfect. The weight holds it in place. Ah, easy. Look at you.
You're strong.
I'm Mr. Hoodman. I'm a Hoodman hatchling. This very thin but very weighted but very durable piece of gear. And this is what's going to give you that safe takeoff and landing and a reference point. So when you're up in your drone, you can see down and see this most unnatural color on the planet as your reference point. And this baby also collapses down into a very small circle, which I think I'll try to do it right in the air. Can't believe I just did that. I had some Keith energy there when that happened.
Can I try that?
Sure. You ready? Watch, it'll ruin your sexual.
Don't.
All right,
Here we go.
Yeah. Yes. You are a seasoned veteran, Keith.
Yes, it comes from years of folding up reflectors, etc.
That's right. Same kind of technology, weighted 3, 5, and 8 footers. It's really an exciting product. So that's that.
This is really cool. So who thought of this?
You know, it was actually feedback from some of the customers that came through when we started with our original sunshades. Okay, the sunshades are for your displays. We'll talk about those. But people came in and said, hey, you know, I'm tired of landing on dirt and dust and getting my aircraft dusted. So we thought, why don't we come up with something for these folks? Came up with this weighted design, and that basically was it about a year and a half ago. So
That's really cool. So what does this cost?
this one is $60, and that's the 3-footer. The 5-footer is $100. 8-footer is $399. 8-footer is for like a 8-bladed monster. Yeah, it's a big boy.
What's this? What wind is this rated at?
Wow, good question, Keith. The wind rating, I don't really have one specifically. All I know is this. It's never been flipped over. It's never been lifted up. We've had Inspires come over it and other sizable drones. Doesn't even move because we're holding down the perimeter with weight.
So probably any wind condition you'd fly a drone in, this will stay on the ground.
Right. Put it, yeah, like you said, yeah. If you can't fly, yeah, exactly. You put it in the right perspective. That's it. So yeah, this will hold up to anything. I shouldn't say anything, but yeah, you wouldn't want to fly if it gets crazier than that. Yeah. Low blood sugar. Sorry,
That's okay. That's okay.
it's starting to melt down right now.
It's good because it's also kind of protects from not only from dust but from moisture, like if you're on grass.
Yeah, big point. I mean, a lot of times you're in a grass field where there's maybe 6 or 7 inches of grass or whatever, wet. Once again, you take off from that, it flutters all around the wetness and just coats your lens, and it's a nightmare. So yeah, gives you a nice kind of area to take off from without having any difficulty.
And can you put this in the washing machine?
You know, not really. No, I would say
I was actually just kidding.
you're a troublemaker. But you bring up a good point. It's simple water or soap and water. It's PVC coated nylon, so it's very durable. And most of the time you can just take it off with a little bit of soap and water. Very simple. No harsh chemicals, please. No Palmdale, all right?
What's that?
Palmdale. Yeah. All right. What?
What's that? What's Palm
That's
Day?
where Hoodman is right now. I'm trying to pull it all together. You know what I'm saying?
It's a callback. I think Bob was. Were you actually a stand-up comedian in your last life?
I wanted to be one, though.
I was stand-up comedian for about 5 minutes.
Your first.
I was very familiar with the red light flashing while I was on
Was
stage.
your time? Yeah,
That's when they want you to get off stage because you're so bad.
exactly. I haven't had enough chutzpah to do that. I have not. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's very cool.
chutzpah. Yeah,
I
well,
haven't tried that yet, but I thought, it'd be kind of fun.
I think you should do it. I think you're a
I
natural.
think I could feel it. Yeah.
I think you should just go in there. Maybe bring the dome with you for support.
Oh my God. It could be a mini dome, maybe little baby domes. Maybe we should do that. Maybe
I think
we
so.
should just populate the trade show floor with little 10-foot Hoodmans all over the place, sprinkled. What do you think?
I think that's it. You know what? Here's a great marketing scheme. I just thought of this.
Yeah.
Get one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Just make a big scene. Go into somebody else's booth. Set it out.
Yeah,
Fling it over their
yeah,
booth,
yeah.
and then have the dome land on it.
If we could combine those and orchestrate that might not be a bad idea. I like it.
You heard it here first. You're inspired by our customer suggestions. So.
You give me ideas, I act on them. I'm just a facilitator. I'm a conduit of comedy.
Okay. Anything else that you're excited about?
I'm excited about the drone belt. Okay, we introduced this last year, so you showed that piece, but we have an addition to it. Watch yourself. Part of the drone belt is this little gem of a piece, the bracket. So now no one makes a bracket like this ever, anywhere for DJI or other flyers. We have this product, but it holds it in place. And you see this little piece here. This is a Manfrotto tripod quick release.
I have 3,000 of them.
You know these, yeah, it's a natural. There's a 1/4-20 threaded screw slot in here. So now you can tag that in and you can put this on to hold your monitor in place wherever. And people, it's not my idea. This is a woman up in Toronto, Canada. She says, Bob, I love your drone bet, but I don't want to put something on because that's fine. And she goes, I said, what do you want to do? She says, I want to put it on a tripod. I said, no problem. That's how this was born. So I ripped somebody off again. It's great. No unique ideas.
And she's getting royalties?
Absolutely.
She's
She's in Canada, though, so it ain't going to happen.
The legal...
Contractually, we have no, she has no remedy, no coming at me.
No, nobody can sue you for 5 cents per...
Worry about other people. No, I'm just kidding.
That's actually awesome. I want to get that.
I think you should. I think it's a piece that's convenient. It's excellent. It pops on to your tripod. Or people can buy 2 or 3 of them and keep them on their carts so they're constantly within reach, but not getting knocked over or laying in the dirt or sand. I mean, it's just, yeah. These are all inspired from people's stories that tell me, and I listen. Because the ego is in check, my friend. I'm already completely independently rich anyway, so it doesn't
We
matter.
knew that.
I do that for fun.
I know. It's all for fun. The Launchpad.
Just giving back.
Okay, I think we've used up our memory in our iPad at this point, so I think it's time to sign off. But this has been. I'm going to have to take a little nap after this interview. Thank you so much, Bob.
Keith, it's been a pleasure. Nice to see you, and I'll keep you updated on Hoodman's progress through this time of need.
Keith Moreau signing off for Tech Move.
Well, that's Bob Schmitt. I love Bob. He's what a terrific guest. What a terrific company. The Hoodman folks over there. Bob, thanks so much, and all of our guests that we've had here today have really made the show really terrific, and of course to the great skills of Keith Moreau. Keith, your thoughts about Hoodman and any shots there?
I love Hoodman because they're kind of like a bootstrap company. They're not like a big corporation that has thousands of employees worldwide. They're just like 5 guys.
Yeah.
But they have this presence. I've used Hoodman stuff for years and years. Like 20-something years ago, I got my first little Hoodman sun visor, that went over my LCD on one of my camcorders so I could see outside. Of course, I don't need it anymore because I'm going to get the SmallHD focus. But back in the day, no. I have a whole drawer full of these different Hoodman sun shields. Don't use them as much anymore, but they're always coming out with new products that are very helpful. One of them is really cool and kind of applicable for me. It's called the Launchpad, which he talks about. And basically, it's kind of like a weighted fabric pop-out disc that has kind of a weight around the edges that stays on the ground and allows you to have a target for your drone.
Yeah.
And also protect the drone from the ground.
Yeah.
And that's actually something that's kind of, in a way, kind of useful because a lot of time you're taking a drone out into the wild, and you don't want your drone necessarily get all messy.
Yeah.
And
right.
Like a lot of times I find I have to kind of wipe off the bottom of my drone afterwards. And after I'm
well,
done.
That's usually from crashing it into people.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You have to spray off all the blood. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if the Hoodman Dome Hoodman Launchpad would protect. Well, I could give it to the people that are around us.
Right.
As shields.
Yeah.
So we have another use for it. Okay. Well, anyway, so they're always coming up with innovative products, and I really love Bob, and we'll probably just continue to do these comedy routines every time we're at the shows.
That's terrific. I always love a good comedy routine. It's always terrific, and Bob's a great sport, and thank you very much, Bob, and the folks over at Hoodman. Yeah. All right. You know what, Keith? Let us close this segment, and we'll come back and get some final thoughts on NAB 2017.
Okay.
And we will come right back and close out this show, and we'll be right back with more Tech Move. I can't believe it, Keith, but another NAB show off in the horizon. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's done. 2017 has come and go. It's been a fun time. It's been an exciting time.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Right.
especially when I got the names of the people I interviewed wrong. But then I got it right.
Well, yeah, after they tell you, which is
after
awesome.
they tell me what name.
Right. My name's actually Bob.
By the way, Rodney, I want to congratulate you and us.
Thank you.
On a milestone.
Thank you.
You don't know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't, but I'm going to accept congratulations no matter what.
So by the time this episode is out,
NAB 2019 will be in the books, right?
Well, that's true too. But another great milestone in podcasting history.
Go ahead.
TechMove's 5-year anniversary.
Get out of here. Are you serious?
Yes, our first episode was July 7th, 2012.
Get out of here. It's been 5 years of TechMove?
It's been 5 years of TechMove on the air. It's probably about 6 moves of us doing 6 years of us doing TechMove, but 5 years of the public knowing about TechMove.
1 year was spent just trying to figure out how to press record and play at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was
but we finally got one after a year of trying. We got one out on July 7th, 2012. 5 years.
Well, you know what? Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you too. It's been an amazing 5 years.
It's been an amazing 5 years, and we've experienced a great deal of success and riches and accolades. And you know what? I have to thank our listening audience, the entire TechMove universe. I want to take this moment to thank all of our listeners out there.
Can we thank the Academy?
We can thank the Academy. I would also like to thank the accounting firm of Louie, and Louie for their nomination of us for this prestigious award. But Keith, really, thank you. It's been a wonderful 5 years.
It has been.
And not only would I know, I've learned so much from you, but I have also learned how to spend more money on a hobby that is completely price prohibitive for me. So thank you for everything that you introduced me to.
It is my pleasure, Rodney. It's been such an amazing experience. I've enjoyed and look forward to every episode we do.
I do want to really be serious and thank the listening audience who, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, they really come from all over the world. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do. They come from 2 different places in the world.
Yeah. Right.
No.
Fantastic. like 2 cities within the San Francisco Bay Area, me and you.
It's the world. It's
right.
all over the world.
Hey, it's the world. We're worldwide. Come on now. I've listened to us when I've traveled, so I'm going to say that we're worldwide.
Yeah, I listen to myself on the plane when I'm traveling.
I nudge the person next to me and say, "Hey, you want to listen to me on a podcast? Here, put my in-ear headphones into your ears, my disgusting earpods. Put them in your ears and listen to me."
Worldwide.
Well, 5 years, who would have thought? What just flashed in my head? Keith, it's been 5 years and we're only at episode, what is this, 37, 38, something like that?
It's around there. That's around there, yeah. So
holy mackerel.
5 divided by 36. Well, it's not terrible. It's like 7 episodes a year. It's not terrible. I mean, it could be 1 episode a year.
Hey, we give you a bang for the buck, ladies and gentlemen, right? We're not one of those 15-minute, half-hour, 1-hour podcasts. We'll give you the whole kitchen sink when we finally put one out.
And actually, we missed a whole year. We didn't even record for a whole year.
That's true.
So don't even count that one.
That's true. That's right. Well, then happy 4th year anniversary then. Happy. It's been a great ride. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much for all the support. We couldn't have done it without you. And and in fact, Keith, before we do our sign off, let's share with the people how they can get hold of us and either talk to us or help support us. Of course, you can find us at our website, which is techmovepodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fantastic link that we have, and we'd appreciate a little bit of support for us. And you do that as one of the, what I think they call it, the Amazon affiliate sites. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just a link that puts a little cookie and allows you to buy stuff in Amazon and gives us a little kickback.
Right. And it helps keep this thing on the air for free and
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
For another 5 years.
For another 5 years.
We've done 5. Let's do another 5.
Another 5 years of this gloriousness known as Tech Move. You can also find us on Facebook. Look for us at Tech Move Podcast. Twitter is up there at Tech Move Podcast. And we're available on a couple other platforms like Stitcher and Player FM. And all you got to do with those guys is look for Tech Move. What have I missed?
If you want to support us in a way where you can just give us money every month, it can be a small amount or it can be a huge amount. We prefer huge amounts.
Yes, we do.
You can go to patreon.com/techmovepodcast, and you can actually sign up for a subscription to Tech Move Podcast. You don't get anything extra. You just get the pride of being able to contribute.
Right, and you know what we'd like to do is we'd like to offer that if you do support us in that way, we might announce your initials over the air. Not really a full name, but your initials, because we know that you pride yourselves on privacy, and I wouldn't want to violate that type of privacy, and I'll just announce your initials. So. Anyway,
actually, how about this? Why don't we have tiered support? So if it's like $10 a month,
right,
that's just the first letter of their first name. And then if it's $20 a month, it's both initials, first and last name. $30 will include their middle name initial.
You know what? Let's not call it tiered. We'll just call it a pyramid scheme. How about that?
Okay.
Or a Ponzi scheme. Let's try that one too.
There you go.
Ponzi scheme right here on Tech Move. Well, but anyway, hey, again, thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen, for giving us a listen. Remember that always you can always pick us up on iTunes as well, and give us a review. We haven't heard of a review in a little while, and you know we think you're not listening to us, which most likely is really the case. But nonetheless, we still want you make something up, will you? And give us a review. We love to hear from you, Keith. I think that's going to do it for NAB 2017. It has been fun. It's been real. And I think most likely our next episode, we will find Keith Moreau at Cinegear 2017. Might that be correct?
That is correct.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what you have to look forward to is Cinegear 2017. But for right now, it has been the immortal Rod Louie and the very lovely and attractive Keith Moreau. We want to thank you so much for joining us on our what has turned out to be our 5-year anniversary and our continuing coverage of NAB 2017. Thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it, and we thank you so much for giving us a listen. This is us right here from Tech Move, and we'll see you in our next episode.